Imagine you, Warriors fan, turning on your cell phone and seeing yet another trade news that never comes to fruition, while Curry's peak goes down the drain. It's tiring to see the team flirting with mediocrity, promising revolution, and in the end returning to the same failures as always, right? But today is different. If this trade for Anthony Davis really happens, it will change everything. Defense, football, identity, and above all, the feeling that the Warriors are truly giants again. In this video, I will show you why this possible negotiation is not just another empty rumor, what is happening behind the scenes, who could leave, what the team really gains with the AD, and why this could be the answer to the pain you feel watching Curry carry everything alone. Stay with me until the end to understand whether this bombastic exchange is the beginning of a new dynasty or just another illusion sold to the fans. Before we delve into the behind the scenes of this possible exchange, here's what you need to do. If you're one of those who suffer with every Warriors game and can't bear to see the team wasting Curry's prime, subscribe to the channel now. Here you don't receive cold, delayed news, you receive direct, no-nonsense analysis the way a real fan deserves. Take advantage and leave a like because this shows the algorithm that there are Warriors fans alive, participating, and makes this content reach even more people who feel the same way as you. Activate the bell so you don't miss any updates. Because if this Anthony Davis business takes any new steps, you'll know here first, in real time. Now, stay with me until the end, because every detail of this possible exchange could completely change the future of the franchise. And I'll show you point by point why this could be the game changer you've been waiting for years. Imagine the scene with me. Game night, Chase Center packed. That usual atmosphere of someone who is used to seeing a historic team on the court. Only this time, something is different. With each possession, instead of confidence, there is a certain discomfort. And then, suddenly, the worst happens. Stephen Curry feels his leg, limps, tries to continue, but the pained face gives everything away. When he starts walking towards the tunnel, the entire gym understands that this isn't just another defeat. It's the feeling that the entire season could have ended right there before everyone's eyes. It's at this kind of moment that a champion franchise is forced to look in the mirror. How far does the calculated risk go? At what point is that line crossed and turns into pure despair? The Golden State Warriors, who for years were synonymous with control, planning, and excellence, are now flirting with a scenario that seemed unthinkable not so long ago. The real risk of becoming irrelevant within an increasingly ruthless Western Conference. The 104-100 score against the Houston Rockets, in itself, could just be an uncomfortable stumble. But added to the context, this defeat takes on another weight. It wasn't just a lost game. It was a clear sign that something structural is not working. It's not a question of a bad night, balls that didn't fall, or questionable refereeing. It's a portrait of a team that, instead of rising levels throughout the season, seems to slip step by step as its competitors climb. When we look at the table and see a record of 10 wins and 10 losses, we are not facing a temporary crisis. We are talking about a team that in practice is stuck in the middle of the road. It is not weak enough to accept a complete rebuild, but it is also not strong enough to place itself today among the main candidates for the title. It's the worst possible place for a franchise that still has Stephen Curry playing at a high level. And that is precisely what makes the moment so delicate. With Curry out for at least a week, maybe longer, the feeling is that the Warriors are standing on the edge of an abyss. On the one hand, the temptation to make a big bet, to bet all your chips on a bold move. On the other, the fear of compromising the future of the franchise in the name of a desperate attempt to save the present. And that's where the name that is dominating behind the scenes comes in: Anthony Davis. Before getting to it, it's important to understand the full picture. It's not just Curry that's a concern. The entire cast appears to carry some type of physical or technical alert. Players with chronic pain, others without confidence, young people who have not yet made the leap that was expected. The calendar, instead of helping, makes the situation worse. 2 home games followed by a heavy away sequence against teams with better campaigns. It is a part of the season that can define everything. whether there is still a path to recovery or whether the management will be forced to accept that this year will not go far. Meanwhile, the rumor machine works tirelessly. The first big name linked to the Warriors was Domantas Sabonis. At first glance, it is not difficult to understand why. A pivot with the ability to create play from the box, an excellent rebounder, refined vision of the game, and a style that combines well with attacks based on constant movement without the ball. On paper, it looks almost perfect, but the NBA is not played on paper. Those who follow it more closely know that, behind the surface, there are issues that weigh heavily. Sabonis has relevant defensive limitations, especially in rim protection and pick-and-roll defense. In a team that already struggles to contain infiltrations and protect the basket, investing heavily in a pivot that does not solve this central problem could be an expensive luxury. Add to this the cost of a change of this size and the board's natural resistance to dismantling the squad for a player who does not correct the main weakness, and the initial excitement diminishes. It is in this context, almost like a movie plot twist, that the name Anthony Davis appears. Not as just any rumor, but as a possibility that deeply divides opinions. On the one hand, the seductive idea, a pivot capable of being a defensive anchor, protecting the rim at a very high level, switching on the perimeter when necessary, and at the same time, delivering elite offensive production. On the other, a history of injuries that scares any executive, any fan, anyone who even follows the league at all. Let's be honest. If the discussion were just technical, there wouldn't be much debate. Anthony Davis, healthy, is exactly the type of player who could change the Warriors' defensive status overnight. Imagine a front line with Davis and Draymond Green coordinating the defense, communicating all the time, closing spaces, contesting shots, protecting the rim. It would easily be one of the most impactful duos in the league on the defensive side of the court. In attack, the combination is also promising. Davis can play as Curry's direct pick-and-roll partner, can receive the ball at the elbow, attack from the front, finish close to the rim, or space the court with medium and long-range shots when he is in a good rhythm. His mere presence changes the way opposing defenses need to position themselves, takes pressure off Curry, opens up the passing lane, completely changes the marking dynamic. But that's not the big question. The big question is, in how many games, in fact, would he be available to do all this? The recent numbers are not kind. Davis has missed 38 of the last 52 games, which represents an absence rate that no team at risk can afford to ignore. Ankles, feet, knees, back, shoulders. The list of physical problems is long and often recurring. When you look to the future, the question is no longer, will it fit? And it becomes, will his body handle it? And this is where the risk gains another layer, the financial one. Any franchise that decides to bet on Anthony Davis will not only be receiving the player, but also making a heavy commitment to his current contract and, apparently, a new, valued extension. We are talking about figures that are around more than $70 million per season. In a team that is already drowning in luxury fines, this type of commitment has a direct impact on everything. The depth of the squad, future renewals, the flexibility to correct course if something goes wrong. Put all of this in context for the Warriors. This is a franchise that has already taken big risks in the recent past. At a time of crisis, he decided to make a bold move by bringing in a star like Jimmy Butler, betting that his competitive personality and fit into the team's culture could rekindle the flame. And it worked. The surge that followed put the team back on a competitive level, restored confidence in the locker room, and rekindled the league's respect. It is precisely because of this memory that this type of operation returns to the table. When a high-risk gamble pays off, it sets a psychological precedent. The feeling that if it worked once, it could work again, but the situations are never identical. Butler arrived in much more stable physical condition with a much better recent history of availability. Davis, at this moment, brings with him a much higher sporting and financial risk. On the one hand, the prospect of giving Curry exactly what he needs most in the final stretch of his prime, a strong partner who takes on part of the offensive load and who at the same time takes the defense to another level. On the other, The fear of seeing this plan fall apart in a season full of medical reports, decisive games without the main reinforcement, and a salary cap compromised for years. Basically, this whole discussion comes up against a point that is emotional, but also extremely rational. Curry's time. At 35 years old, he is still capable of deciding games, series, and seasons. But every year that passes without a worthy structure around it is a year that never comes back. A title window is not all go that opens and closes cleanly. She is wearing out, and at some point, it just doesn't exist anymore. That's why, when talking about Anthony Davis on the Warriors, the conversation is never simple. Those who only look at the risk tend to advocate maximum caution. Those who only look at the need to take advantage of Curry's last years tend to argue that there is no room for conservatism, and it is exactly in this tension that the front office finds itself right now, between prudence and courage, between the fear of making a big mistake and the fear of doing nothing. The next matches, especially this sequence that mixes home games with a heavy away stretch, could serve as a definitive thermometer. If the team shows evolution, consistency, and the ability to react even without Curry being fully fit, perhaps the board will feel authorized to adopt a more patient stance, seek less radical solutions, and tinker with secondary pieces. But if what lies ahead is a sequence of defeats, oscillations, and signs of exhaustion, the pressure for a major impact movement will increase every day. In scenarios like this, the danger is to act out of desperation. Trading young assets, draft picks, and flexibility for a big name without any real conviction in the project is the type of move that can exact a huge price down the road. At the same time, turning a blind eye to the gravity of the moment and simply accepting a slow decline, season after season, is something that hurts the identity of an organization that has become accustomed to competing at the top. Ultimately, it all comes back to the same question. What kind of franchise do the Golden State Warriors want to be right now? One that accepts a longer transition process, running the risk of wasting the last competitive years of its greatest idol? Or one that decides to bet everything on a single card, with the possibility of fighting for the title again, but also with the real chance of compromising the future? Anthony Davis, in this context, is not just a player. It represents a symbol. The symbol of a choice between protecting tomorrow or trying to save today, between conviction and boldness, between confidence in planning and the belief that sometimes you have to jump without being completely sure where you're going to land. Whether this exchange will happen or not is too early to say. What is already clear is that the simple fact that this scenario is discussed so seriously shows how far the Warriors have moved away from the absolute dominance they once had over the league. And perhaps that is precisely why the debate is so intense, because what is at stake is not just the arrival of a new star, but the very way in which this franchise wants to face its future. Now I want to hear from you. Given all of this, looking at Davis's physical form, the weight of the contract, the situation on the table, Curry's age, what makes the most sense? Do you think it's worth facing all this risk to try to immediately revive your chance at the title? Or do you believe that the most responsible path is to seek less explosive alternatives, even if this means accepting a more modest horizon in the short term? Leave your opinion, because this is one of those decisions that divides fans, analysts, and even those who only follow from afar. And if you want to continue following every development of this soap opera, every new rumor, every move by the Warriors front office, stay here. There is still a lot to happen before the trade deadline, and this story is far from having its final chapter written, so it's now or never. Either the Golden State Warriors have the courage to face the size of the crisis head-on and make a decision that could redefine the history of the franchise, or accept, for the first time in many years, watching from afar as other teams dominate the NBA conversation. There is no neutral zone when talking about Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, and a possible trade that could explode the balance of power in the West. Either this bet rekindles the flame of a dynasty, or it forever enters the list of the biggest disastrous decisions the franchise has ever made. If you want to follow every detail of this possible movement, every serious rumor that emerges, every behind-the-scenes story that the mainstream media isn't highlighting, don't stop here. In the description, and especially in the pinned comment, there will be the playlist Golden State Warriors News Today. Go there and binge watch the videos, because there I delve into the exchange scenario, the impact on the salary cap, the future of the core, the pressure on the board, and, of course, what all this means for Curry's legacy. As soon as you finish this video, scroll down to the pinned comment, click on the Golden State Warriors News Today playlist, and stay with me for this complete coverage. If this Anthony Davis trade bomb really breaks, you won't be caught off guard. You'll understand exactly how we got here and where the Warriors could be headed.